Hey guys, welcome back. Today's story is a wild one. A British journalist accepts a hot Thai model's invitation to her hotel room. He has no idea he's about to be thrust into a world of crime, corruption, and unexpected passion. So let's dive in. The pulsating neon lights of Pattaya's infamous walking street assaulted my senses as I weaved through the bustling crowd. The air was thick with a heady mixture of street food aromas, perfume, and the unmistakable scent of adventure. I'm Alex Cooper, a 32-year-old freelance journalist from London, sent to Thailand to uncover the underbelly of its tourism industry. Little did I know that this assignment would lead me into a web of danger, deceit, and desire that would change my life forever. It was my 5th night in Pattaya, and I was no closer to breaking my story than when I'd first arrived. My editor's words echoed in my mind. "Get me something juicy, Cooper, or don't bother coming back." The pressure was mounting, and I was running out of leads and time. As I passed yet another go-go bar, a flyer thrust into my hand caught my attention. "Exclusive fashion show, Thailand's hottest models. One night only," it proclaimed in bold letters. I was about to crumple it up when a thought struck me. What better place to investigate the darker side of tourism than an event catering to the wealthy and powerful? I hailed a tuk-tuk, giving the driver the address of the upscale hotel hosting the show. As we zipped through the chaotic streets, I couldn't shake the feeling that this night would be different. The hotel loomed ahead, a gleaming monument to luxury that seemed out of place amid the gritty reality of Pattaya. Straightening my rumpled linen shirt and running a hand through my dishevelled brown hair, I approached the entrance. A burly security guard eyed me suspiciously. "Press," I said, flashing my credentials. After a tense moment, he grudgingly waved me through. The ballroom was a sea of beautiful people draped in designer clothes. Models strutted down the catwalk, showcasing a fusion of traditional Thai elements and cutting-edge fashion. I snapped photos and scribbled notes, all the while scanning the crowd for anything out of the ordinary. That's when I saw her. She glided onto the runway with the grace of a jungle cat, her lithe body adorned in a stunning gold and crimson creation. But it wasn't just her beauty that caught my eye. There was something in her gaze, a hint of sadness, a flash of defiance that set her apart from the other models. As she neared the end of the catwalk, our eyes met. Time seemed to slow as she held my gaze, a subtle smirk playing at the corners of her lips. And then, just before she turned to retreat backstage, she winked at me. My heart raced as I watched her disappear behind the curtain. I knew I had to meet her. Slipping backstage after the show, I navigated the chaos of models, designers and staff until I found her in a quiet corner, sipping champagne. "I'm Alex," I said, approaching her. "I couldn't help but notice you on the runway." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Malay, and I noticed you noticing me." There was an edge to her voice that intrigued me. "I'm a journalist," I explained. "I'm working on a story about the dark side of paradise." She interrupted, raising an eyebrow. "You're not the first, you know." Before I could respond, a man in an expensive suit appeared beside her, his hand possessively gripping her arm. "Malai, darling, we need to go. Now." She winced almost imperceptibly, but nodded. As the man led her away, she glanced back at me and mouthed, "Room 1408. My journalistic instincts were on high alert. There was clearly more to Malai's story, and I was determined to uncover it. Little did I know, this encounter would plunge me into a dangerous world I was ill-prepared to navigate. An hour later, I found myself standing outside room 1408, my heart pounding. I knocked softly, and the door opened a crack. Malai's eyes, rimmed with smudged makeup, peered out at me. "You came," she whispered, ushering me inside. The room was luxurious, but there was an underlying tension that set me on edge. Malai paced nervously, her earlier confidence replaced by visible anxiety. "I shouldn't have asked you here," she said, wringing her hands. "But I don't know who else to turn to." What's going on, Malai? I asked, my curiosity piqued. She took a deep breath. The man you saw me with earlier? His name is Arthit Suksai. He's not just a wealthy businessman. He's one of the most dangerous men in Thailand. My journalistic senses tingled. This could be the story I was looking for. How so? Malai's eyes darted to the door before she continued in a hushed voice. He runs a trafficking ring, using the modelling industry as a cover. Many of the girls you saw tonight, they're not here by choice. The gravity of her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Are you saying you're being held against your will? She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I've been trying to find a way out, to expose what's happening, but Arthit's reach is vast. He has politicians, police, even some journalists in his pocket. Why are you telling me this? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Because you're an outsider. You might be my only chance to bring this to light. She grabbed my hand, her touch electric. Will you help me? I knew I should walk away. This was far beyond the scope of my assignment, and the dangers were evident. But looking into Malai's pleading eyes, I found myself nodding. I'll do what I can. Relief washed over her face, quickly replaced by fear, as a loud knock echoed through the room. It's him, she whispered, panic in her voice. My mind raced. If Arthit found me here, things could turn ugly fast. Malai pointed to the balcony, and I slipped outside just as I heard the main door open. Crouched in the shadows, I could hear muffled voices from inside. Arthit's tone was menacing, Malai's responses timid and placating. My fingers itched to reach for my phone to record what was happening, but I didn't dare move. Suddenly, a scream pierced the night, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Without thinking, I burst back into the room. Arthit stood over Malai, who was cowering on the floor, a red mark blooming on her cheek. Who the hell are you? Arthit snarled, turning to face me. He's nobody, Malai pleaded. Just a fan who got the wrong room. Arthit's eyes narrowed as he looked me up and down. A fan, huh? Or perhaps a nosy journalist? I opened my mouth to protest, but before I could utter a word, Arthit's fist connected with my jaw. I stumbled backward, tasting blood. You've made a big mistake, Farang, he spat. Do you have any idea who I am? As he advanced on me, I noticed Malai rising behind him, a determined look in her eyes. She grabbed a heavy vase from a nearby table and with all her strength brought it crashing down on Arthit's head. He crumpled to the floor, unconscious. We need to get out of here, Malai said urgently, already moving towards the door. Wait, I said, my journalistic instincts kicking in despite the throbbing in my jaw. We need evidence, something to prove what you've told me. Malai hesitated, then nodded. She rushed to Arthit's unconscious form and rifled through his pockets, producing a smartphone and a small notebook. These might help, she said, handing them to me. We fled the hotel, my heart pounding as we navigated the labyrinthine corridors and slipped out a service entrance. The humid night air hit us as we emerged onto a side street, the sounds of Pattaya's nightlife a distant throb. Where can we go? Malai asked, her eyes wide with fear and adrenaline. I thought quickly. I know a place, a small guest house off the beaten path. The owner owes me a favour. We hailed a taxi, and I gave the driver an address on the outskirts of town. As we sped through the neon-lit streets, I couldn't help but marvel at how quickly my life had changed. Just hours ago, I was a frustrated journalist chasing a story. Now I was embroiled in a dangerous plot involving one of Thailand's most notorious criminals. The guest house was a modest 2-story building tucked away on a quiet soi. The owner, a wizened old Thai man named Chai, raised an eyebrow at our dishevelled appearance, but asked no questions as he led us to a room on the second floor. Once inside, Malai sank onto the bed, the adrenaline wearing off and leaving her looking vulnerable and exhausted. I sat beside her, unsure of what to say or do. Thank you, she whispered, her hand finding mine. I know I've dragged you into something dangerous, but I didn't know who else to turn to. I squeezed her hand reassuringly. We're in this together now, but we need a plan. We spent the next few hours poring over the contents of Arthit's phone and notebook. What we found was shocking. Detailed records of girls trafficked, bribes paid to officials, and a complex network of criminals spanning several countries. "This is bigger than I imagined," I murmured, my mind reeling from the implications. Malay nodded grimly. "Arthit is just one piece of the puzzle. Taking him down won't be enough to dismantle the entire operation." As the first light of dawn crept through the window, we formulated a plan. We would need help, someone we could trust within the Thai authorities. Malay suggested reaching out to a detective she knew, a man named Sompong, who had a reputation for integrity. But first, we needed to ensure our safety. Arthit would soon discover we were missing, and his reach was long. We couldn't stay in one place for too long. Over the next few days, we moved between safe houses, always looking over our shoulders. I used my journalistic contacts to begin piecing together a story, careful not to reveal too much too soon. Malay worked on contacting other girls who had been trafficked, building a network of witnesses willing to testify. Our close proximity and shared danger fostered a growing intimacy between us. Stolen glances turned to lingering touches, and the air crackled with unspoken tension. But we both knew that acting on our feelings would have to wait. There was too much at stake. A week after our escape from the hotel, we finally met with Detective Sompong in a secluded beach cafe. He listened gravely as we presented our evidence, his weathered face growing more serious with each revelation. "This is explosive stuff," he said finally, "but bringing down someone like Arthit Suksai won't be easy. He has friends in high places." "But it's possible," I pressed. Sompong nodded slowly. "With what you've given me, yes. But it will be dangerous, for all of us." As we left the meeting, a sense of hope began to bloom. We had an ally within the system, and a plan was taking shape, but our elation was short-lived. As we rounded a corner, a black SUV screeched to a halt beside us. Before we could react, two men leaped out, grabbing Malay. I fought desperately, managing to land a solid punch on one attacker, but a sharp pain in my side told me I'd been stabbed. As I crumpled to the ground, I watched helplessly as they bundled Malay into the vehicle and sped away. The world swam in and out of focus as I lay on the pavement, blood seeping through my shirt. In the distance, I could hear sirens approaching. My last coherent thought before losing consciousness was of Malay's terrified face as the car door slammed shut. I awoke in a hospital bed, the steady beep of monitors filling the air. Detective Sompong sat beside me, his face grim. "What happened?" I croaked, my throat dry. "Where's Malay?" Sompong shook his head. "We're looking for her, but it seems Arthit's men got to her before we could move on him." Panic rose in my chest. "We have to find her." "Easy," Sompong said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You're in no condition to go anywhere. But don't worry, we're not giving up." "I may have a lead," he said reluctantly. "One of my informants mentioned a remote compound in the mountains. It's not much, but it's all we have." Over the next few days, as I recovered, Sompong kept me updated on the investigation. They had raided several of Arthit's properties, but found no sign of Malay. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. As soon as I was able, I checked myself out of the hospital against medical advice. I couldn't just lie there while Malay was in danger. Sompong tried to discourage me, but seeing the determination in my eyes, he finally relented. "I may have a lead," he said reluctantly. "One of my informants mentioned a remote compound in the mountains. It's not much, but it's all we have." That night, we set out with a small team of trusted officers. The drive into the mountains was tense, each of us lost in our own thoughts. I couldn't shake the image of Malay's face, couldn't stop imagining what she might be going through. As we neared the compound, Sompong turned to me. "You should stay here, it's too dangerous." I shook my head firmly. "I'm coming. I have to." He sighed but didn't argue further. The raid happened quickly. Shots were fired, doors were broken down, and chaos erupted. I stuck close to Sompong, my heart pounding as we searched room after room, and then, in a dimly lit basement, we found her. Malai was huddled in a corner, bruised but alive. Our eyes met, and in that moment, all the fear and uncertainty of the past weeks melted away. As I helped her to her feet, commotion erupted upstairs. Arthit had been captured trying to flee. It was over. In the days that followed, the full extent of the trafficking ring was revealed. Dozens of girls were rescued, and high-ranking officials were implicated. My story made international headlines, shining a light on the dark underbelly of Thailand's tourism industry. Malai testified against Arthit, her courage inspiring other victims to come forward. As the trials began, she and I found moments of peace amidst the storm. Our shared ordeal had forged a bond between us that went beyond physical attraction. It was a connection born of trust, respect, and shared purpose. One evening as we stood on the balcony of a safe house, watching the sunset over Pattaya, Malai turned to me. "What happens now?" she asked softly. I took her hand, marvelling at how natural it felt. "I don't know," I admitted, "but whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As she leaned into me, I realised that my life had been irrevocably changed. I had come to Thailand chasing a story, but I had found so much more: purpose, justice, and a love I never expected. The lights of Pattaya twinkled below us, a reminder of the darkness we had faced and the light we had fought to bring. And as Malai's lips met mine in a tender kiss, I knew that our journey was far from over. But whatever challenges lay ahead, we would meet them hand in hand, two souls forever bonded by the events that had brought us together in this city of shadows and light.